What would philosophers say to our times? Bloodlines of Greece. One of the things I like about Greek philosophy, if I'm honest with you, is its psychological unclutteredness. Later philosophers need to have a concept like the mind that creates all sorts of very deep problems in perception because there's nothing stopping a mind making mistakes all the time. Aristotle does kind of say that. Indeed, it's one of his arguments for the immateriality of the soul. A soul can make mistakes, but material can't. And yet, there is a fundamental assumption that things are as they appear to be. There isn't a problem of the things in themselves that are somehow different from our perception of the things. Aristotle, in De Anima, says something very remarkable to the modern ear. He says that the form of a thing that I perceive it and the form itself are one and the same. A circle is a circle. To remind you what a form is, a circle is a circle. It can be painted blue or made of bronze or perceived in my mind. I embody it in my mind, in my perceptions, as a circle. But it is the form that has fallen through my eyes. As I said, these days we would call that really quite remarkably naive. And yet, it gives Greece a clarity for understanding those rather difficult problems where you're not sure where you begin or you end. What do I mean by that? Well, there's lots of psychological issues, illness for instance, where you're not sure which bit is you, which bit is your immune system, which is your automatic brain, or which bit is some external symptom. The Greeks were, of course, pants at understanding actual infectious disease. Their theory of four humours is really not up to it. And yet what it does describe very neatly is how you feel about an illness when you've got it. And it allows you to explore your feelings of the illness. So it won't prevent it, but explores those feelings. Now, if you've got diseases where those feelings are part of the illness, autoimmune systems are diseases are a classic example, where the disease is real and matters, and yet it gets caught up in all sorts of deep psychological mechanisms as well, unconscious and conscious. Then a theory like of the four humours, or a psychologicalization of medical practice, so alternative healing, can be surprisingly effective because of the confusion. Not because it's true in a scientific sense, but actually because it's not true in a scientific sense. And what is being described straddles worlds of psychology and worlds of emotion. All right? And the Greeks are good at that. And Aristotle is the master of them that feel. He's very good at it. He provides a canon for describing certain psychological issues. Probably tomorrow I'll do another one. Actually, isn't Aristotle. I'm going to do Sophocles and we're going to do Oedipus because he also has something to say about this that will fit in very neatly here. So what does this mean? Well, that equation between the form and your brain creates very strange journeys. Once, as Aristotle also says, the form of one's living body, of one's soul, is one's life. So your final form is not something like a circle lying there in the world. Aristotle likes to reuse things. It's that image you have of your life that you are projecting. You know how we're all meant to be brands these days. Like it or not, you're a brand. It's the same as Aristotle saying, like it or not, you have a form, and that form is your life, and that form mirrors your desires. So your desires for your life give you your life. Put that up your pipe and smoke it, and what's more, that's your brand, and everyone will perceive it. Well then, how does that help understand anything? Let me explain. Do you have a friend who's a flirt? Perhaps it's you. I'm never very good at flirting myself, but I'm slightly envious of it, so I have spent a lifetime analysing it as the lights go out. And one of the things I think Aristotle doesn't understand is flirting terribly well, interestingly. Because a good flirt operates by certain rules. A good flirt will be vulnerable. So that, particularly if this is particularly true of the flirts I understand best, which are men on women, they'll always be a slightly effeminate, slightly vulnerable, so that they will form in the ideas of those to whom they are flirting a strong image of that vulnerability. Okay? That makes people want to look after them. But more than that, it's also beautiful. So also plays by some of the female rules of beauty if you are a man. Okay? So they will be both gentle but beautiful. But the essence of a flirt is that when you talk, you're at slight odds to that image that somebody else has. And so that you get a banter. But it works because the person to whom you are flirting has a very strong image, a final form that they actually desire in their mind. And they're making that final form fit against the counterpoint of the banter that you are saying, so they're never quite sure where they are. It makes it fascinating. Now that isn't Aristotle. But it goes to the next level, which is the gentle narcissist. Do you have a friend who's always got the latest things? They sometimes change, but they've always got the latest things, and they're always trying to impress you with their life, their success, partly because they're trying to impress themselves. What are they doing? Well, Aristotle provides you the immediate answer. They're presenting to you a form of success, a form of desire, and they're demanding quite gently that you desire it too. Because in your desire of their form, they are finding further confirmation of their desire of your form. What makes them a gentle narcissist is they'd probably like the things come what may. But then you might know somebody, and you might not be their friend, who's a little bit more insistent upon this. These are the more brittle bodies. I have known people who will say, I love animals, me. I have so many dogs. And maybe they do. And maybe in their minds they love animals. But if you watch their behaviour with them, what they say they do and what they do is often a little bit at odds. And what they're trying to do is to hold themselves together, hold their form together by presenting it to your mind. By you saying you love animals, you give form to a desire that you resolve their desires into that feeling where they feel on the feedback that they must truly love animals. And yet if you're not watching, if you're not creating their form in your mind and feeling their desire in your mind, who they are slips. The Aristotelian point here is that if final form and desire are linked, if the final form fails to form in the mind of the person who's meant to have it, it can form in the minds of others. And they can use those others to be the linchpin of their desire. Such people then are often a little bit pained. They'll have a fad, they'll demand that you watch them. And they get upset if you don't. And us being humans, we do watch them. We feel their pain. We embody their desire for them. We give it the reality and hand it back to them. That is a very Aristotelian process. Desire and form have run together. Their desire to be this certain thing creates a form in your mind that allows them to live it. But suppose the desire is more open. Suppose it can never be quite formed. Suppose it is endlessly open, that we cannot ever quite supply what they need. What then? I saw recently, I've always been a little bit complacent about the far right, because I look at leaders like Trump and Farage, and they're no great shakes. I mean, a maggot would be better than both of them in charge and make better decisions. And then I read recently an article, this will get back to Aristotle, I've forgotten her name, Thompson, who interviewed Hitler and said Hitler was exactly the same. He was psychologically just totally inadequate. He was the perfect little man because he was always a victim, always felt himself to be a victim, always gave the impression in her that he was a poor little neurotic who needed treatment, not power. And that, of course, is true for Trump and certainly true for Farage. For that matter, it was true for Thatcher. So, once you demand that other people have a form of you in their heads that is vulnerable, that form only exists insofar as it exists in their heads, then somehow your psychological need for them to think that you are the great leader becomes urgent. Humans, us, we who watch them, feel their need that we embody their desire. And so we do. And so these non-entities, these less than maggot human beings, punch way above their weight because their entire soul exists in our thought of them, in that which they broadcast to us, and in nothing that they are. And so we've gone very far. Forms have stopped being something that is simply in the thing itself and then in our minds, and become something that are only in our minds and in the desire they want to create for what they are in our minds. And yet it is that desire that they have that we create a form in their minds that creates, in a sense, their power. And why we're all in so much shit, because the internet makes that too easy. It makes that demand to be that demand that others create your form too ready. And so those who are most vacuous and most foolish can suddenly demand that their very foolishness becomes a reason that they have power.